I never thought a single comment could unravel everything. I'm James, 33, and I thought I knew Sarah, the woman I was about to marry. We met 5 years ago in a small cafe in Boston. She had this laugh that made the whole room feel lighter, and I was drawn to it instantly. Back then, she used to text me good morning every single day, and somehow, she made me feel like I mattered in ways I didn't even know I needed. Life was hectic. My work as a logistics manager wasn't glamorous, but with her, it always felt worth it. For the first few years, our relationship was steady. Not perfect, but steady. We had routines that were comfortable: late-night movies, occasional weekend trips, dinners with friends. I never questioned her loyalty, and she never questioned my dedication. I was invested emotionally and financially, and she seemed to be too. Then came that one evening a few months ago. I got home late from work, exhausted and still carrying the weight of back-to-back deadlines. I walked in, expecting the usual greeting, the small smile, the warm hug. But instead, Sarah was scrolling through her phone on the couch. She looked up, smiled half-heartedly, and said something that froze me in place. "You know, sometimes I wonder if Mark, my ex, would have handled things better." I blinked. I thought I misheard her. "Excuse me?" I said cautiously, trying not to let anger show in my voice. She leaned back and casually shrugged, like it was nothing, like it was just a passing thought. But it wasn't just a passing thought. It was a line crossed, something that should never have left her mouth, not to me, not ever. For days, I replayed that sentence in my head. I questioned myself. Was I overreacting? Was it just a harmless comment? Nothing more? But deep down, I knew it wasn't harmless. It was disrespect, a crack in the foundation I thought was solid. I started noticing the little things. The way she avoided eye contact, how her laughter at my jokes became forced, how our conversations became shorter, sharper, more strained. I tried to push it aside at first. I convinced myself that maybe it was stress from her new job, or that she was just tired. I cooked dinner more often, made sure the house was tidy, even tried to plan small surprises to bring back the spark. But every gesture seemed to bounce off an invisible wall. She didn't notice. She didn't care. One Friday evening, I decided to surprise her with a home-cooked dinner, her favorite pasta, candles set on the table, the works. I thought maybe a quiet, thoughtful evening would remind her why we were together. She walked in, glanced at the table and muttered, "That's sweet, I guess," before heading to the bedroom with her phone. My chest tightened. I felt a familiar ache. One I hadn't felt in a long time, but I remembered it all too well. The feeling of being invisible, unwanted, like my presence wasn't enough. The following weekend, I thought a weekend getaway might help. I rented a small cabin by the lake, packed a few things, and even planned a hike, hoping we could talk, reconnect, breathe some life into the relationship. We arrived, the cabin tucked between the trees, the lake shimmering under the early morning sun. I tried to engage her in conversation as we unpacked. She smiled occasionally, but her mind wasn't there. She spent more time on her phone than looking at me, more time responding to work emails than noticing the quiet beauty around us. That night, I tried to hold her hand while sitting by the fire. Her hand flinched. She pulled it away quickly, muttering, "Not now, James." The words hit me harder than I expected. I felt like all the effort, all the patience, all the love I had poured into her had been ignored, discarded. It wasn't just about the comment about Mark anymore. It was about everything that had followed, the slow erosion of respect, of intimacy, of connection. For the first time, I questioned everything. I questioned my worth in her eyes, my place in this relationship. And in that quiet cabin, staring at the firelight dancing across the walls, I realized something terrifying. The line she crossed with that comment was just the beginning. The next morning, I woke up before her, the cabin silent except for the faint rustle of leaves outside. I brewed some coffee and sat on the porch, staring at the lake, trying to collect my thoughts. My mind kept replaying her words about Mark. How could she even say that to me? How could someone who promised a future with me casually plant that seed of doubt, disrespect, and betrayal? When Sarah finally came down, she acted as if nothing had happened. She made coffee, poured herself a cup, and smiled briefly. I looked at her and felt a surge of frustration mixed with exhaustion. I wanted to confront her, demand an explanation, a reason, something that would give me closure. But I didn't. I just nodded, took a sip, and forced myself to stay calm. We spent the morning walking around the lake. I tried to bring up lighter topics, the kind we used to laugh about, but every attempt felt hollow, her responses clipped, disinterested. The spark that once connected us, the small things that mattered, was gone. I realized then that the damage wasn't a single comment. It wasn't even the flinched hand or the half-hearted smile. It was the slow accumulation of neglect, the subtle erosion of respect, and now, the betrayal of trust that her comment about Mark had finally illuminated. By late afternoon, I could no longer pretend. I asked her to sit with me by the fire again. My voice was steady, but my hands shook slightly. "Sarah, I need to ask you something serious. Do you want to be with me? Or is this over?" She looked at me, and for a moment, I thought she might cry, apologize, say she hadn't meant it. But instead, she sighed, a long, almost impatient exhale, and said, I don't know anymore, James. Maybe we've changed too much. Maybe it's just not the same." Her words were soft, but they carried the weight of finality. The look in her eyes, detached, almost indifferent, cut deeper than I could have imagined. And in that moment, I felt a clarity I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. I realized that love isn't just about history, or memories, or what you've built together. Love is alive, and it requires reciprocity. It requires effort from both sides. What I had been holding onto was a version of love that only existed in my head. I stood up, inhaling the crisp air, letting it fill my lungs, steadying my racing heart. I walked a few steps away from her and turned back. "If you feel this way, if your heart isn't in this anymore, then I think it's time we face the truth. I can't keep trying alone. I won't." Her lips parted slightly, maybe to protest, maybe to argue, but no words came. She just looked down at the fire, silent. I felt a strange sense of relief, bitter but real. Relief that I wasn't trapped in a relationship where my love and effort weren't valued. Relief that I could finally stop bending myself, stop compromising my dignity for someone who no longer wanted to be there. Later that evening, I packed my bag quietly. I didn't slam doors, didn't yell, didn't throw accusations. I simply moved with intention, calm determination. Clothes, toothbrush, phone charger, wallet. I packed the essentials and left the cabin with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. I stepped outside, the lake reflecting the setting sun, the sky streaked with orange and purple. For the first time, I felt the weight lift slightly. As I drove away, I realized that the line Sarah crossed with her comment about Mark wasn't just about her past or my insecurities. It was about the truth she refused to face. That we had grown apart. That the love I thought we shared had faded in her heart long before it disappeared in mine. And maybe, just maybe, leaving wasn't an act of weakness, but a reclaiming of self-respect, of autonomy, of clarity in the midst of betrayal. I found a small motel in a town a few miles away and checked in, the hum of the heater in the room oddly comforting. I texted a close friend to let him know I was okay, not expecting a response. I didn't need sympathy. I needed perspective, distance, and the ability to breathe without feeling invisible. That night, as I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, I understood something crucial. Love isn't always enough. Effort alone doesn't guarantee connection. And sometimes the most painful, heartbreaking decisions are also the ones that set you free. Because crossing a line, even with a single comment, can reveal what's been hidden all along. And once you see it clearly, you have to act, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of the recognition that you deserve a love that sees you, values you, and chooses you every single day.